to the Thought Snob Podcast. I'm Paula Swope. Let's get snobby. Today, we are going to talk about energy healing, and that has always intrigued me, and I can't think of anyone better to educate us on it than this lady right here. This is Vickie Coffey. Vickie is a registered nurse, a licensed massage therapist, a Reiki master, an advanced Marconics practitioner, a myofascial release therapist, and a cranial sacral therapist. See what I mean by there's nobody any better to talk about this than Vickie? And so, Vickie, welcome to the show. I'm so glad that you agreed to do this. And Vickie has driven here to Prospect, Kentucky today from Greenville, right?
Right.
Okay, Greenville, South Carolina. So she had a bit of a trip to join us today. And I just want to kick off by asking you about auras. I'm not real clear on even what auras are. And so if you could just really give us a basic overview, just, something that even a 4-year-old child could understand.
Well, thank you, Paula.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for inviting me.
Oh, God,
It's my pleasure.
Yeah.
It's an opportunity to step up and share some things that might resonate with some people.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, starting at the beginning with the auras. So auras are a colorful, energetic field
Mm-hmm.
that surround the entire body. Not only humans, but auras surround every living thing.
Okay.
So trees have auras, plants, flowers, animals, even insects, believe it or not, have auras. The auras the halo itself is easily seen around the head area, head and shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason for that is because of the brain and central nervous system, the anatomical structures, the glands, everything, all that electromagnetic energy coming off the head. So it's easier to see there.
Mm-hmm.
So you see pictures, religious pictures of the halos, the golden halos.
Mm-hmm.
The aura itself is oval-shaped.
Okay.
It is 4 to 5 feet from the body, extends 4 to 5 feet out.
Mm-hmm.
The layer, and it connects in with many layers. The physical layer is called the etheric, and that's the one closest to the physical body.
Okay.
And that color is like a bluish gray, and it's really bright.
And everybody has that?
Everybody has it.
Okay.
And usually when one starts to learn how to look at the auric field, that's what one will see first, is that light bluish, very close to the skin, close to the head area, before the other colors emerge. So it takes a little training. But the aura is, like I said, it's connected in to many layers, one being physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. It also connects into the chakras, which are energy centers located down the central channel of the body. And those are different colors, and they have floral patterns on them. And so the auric field connects in with those energy centers, as well as other energies flowing throughout the body, as well as meridians. Those are energetic points that contain acupressure and acupuncture. So they connect in with those as well. Now, when an auric field, when someone has high energy, that field will extend out even beyond 4 to 5 feet. If someone has low vibrational energy, that auric field will be smaller. It'll shrink, it'll contract, so it won't be as expansive. The auric field is really created by our thoughts and feelings, whether they be conscious or unconscious. And so, Edgar Cayce I don't know if are you
Yes.
familiar with him?
Yes. He's from
Okay.
Kentucky, right?
Right.
Yes.
Hopkinsville.
Yes.
Edgar Cayce stated that the aura was actually vibrations of the soul. Which I kind of like. I think that's
I like
kind of
that.
cool. Yeah.
I like that. Yeah.
So what is projected out into that auric field has everything to do with what's going on inside the body. And some people believe that the auric field is an indicator of a person's health condition and that it's actually the cause of illness. So if a person's ill, that will show in the auric field as well as health. So it does all work together, and it's reflective in the auric field. So that's the basics of it.
Have you ever seen something like that? Like if you were reading someone's aura and they were sick, have you ever seen that yourself?
Yeah, actually I have. Probably the most profound example.
Now I'm going to be paranoid.
Well, this is early on, many years ago, when I was working as a nurse in an outpatient mental health clinic. One of my coworkers who actually worked over in medical records, so there was a lot of contact with this individual on a daily basis. She knew that I did energy work, so I'm talking with her and standing in the doorway, and all of a sudden, 2 green balls of color appeared on the left side of her head. And they were the color of like, the Crayola green, like the green color. So it was a surprise. So I thought, whoa, I stood back and I blinked and I said, Jill, she goes, what's the matter? And I go, I don't know. I'm seeing 2 large balls of color in the left side of your head. She goes, what does it mean? I go, I don't know. I'm going to have to go home and look it up. I have no idea, because I was new in working with the energy. So I said, I don't know. I'm going to have to check it out. But what she later told me was that she had a brain tumor on that side of her head.
Wow.
And she had some, like an MRI and CAT scan done and needed to actually have surgery.
Wow.
I had picked that up without even knowing that she went for testing. She had the surgery and she made it through, but she developed a post-op infection. Things looked pretty serious, and I was concerned that she may not make it through the second surgery. So I asked her, I said, do you want me to come and do some energy for you? And at the time she was hospitalized at the Cleveland Clinic, because that's where this happened. And she said, yeah, sure. So I went and I did, a session on her, and she said, oh my gosh, I feel so much better. I feel like I'm good to go. So I left, and then later she said that it was amazing because when they went in and opened her up again, when they looked at the brain, that area of infection was totally resolved. So the only thing that was left was like this pink ring of the tissue was just pink, but it was there wasn't an infection there. But it was like her desire to want the energy, and so it worked for her. So that's, one of the most profound examples of, seeing distortions in the energy field. So when the color is clumped, it is definitely indicative of an illness or some type of pathology in the tissues.
Wow.
So I have seen other auric fields. I was at a nurses meeting, and all of us nurses are sitting around at a table. The supervisor was standing, and she was next to me, and she was conducting the meeting. So I looked over, and her hands were bright green, like yellow green. Just her hands, from the wrist down to the tips of the fingers. It was a bit distracting because I'm looking away, I'm looking back, and her hands, and she talks a lot with her hands. So her hands were all green, and she's making all these motions and all of that. And that particular color of green indicates deception, and she was a corporate person. So She acted as if she was for us, but behind closed doors, she was pretty much in with management. So that color was reflective of her energy field. But it was just her hands.
Wow.
That was it.
See, I have never experienced anything like that in my life. I have never experienced anything like that. I can definitely pick up on people's energy. I can read a room like nobody's business. And when I meet somebody, I just know certain things about them. I can sometimes, a lot of times, tell you how situations are going to unfold. 99% of the time, when it comes to people, I am right, and it's something that I've always done. I even had that as a child, that strong, intuitive sense about people. But I have never seen auras. When's the first time that you remember you had that gift? I mean, because this is a gift. I mean, this is like a whole other level of intuitiveness that I don't know of anybody that has it, but you personally, I don't.
I think actually, I don't remember much early on in my life having the ability. Like you, I could pick up on energies of people, and I had a sense of like premonitions, like just knowing something was going to happen and getting messages that way. But I would say the beginning of all this happened when I went to a psychic village in Lilydale, New York. Have you heard of that at all?
I have not.
Okay, it's really cool.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I went there, and actually the psychiatrist I worked with at the time, his mother had written a book, and he suggested that I go there. So I went there with my daughter, and I went to the healing temple. And two of the ladies came over, and I went up to the front of what looked like a little church. And I sat down, and I closed my eyes, and they put their hands on me. It was amazing because I felt like a cement block was lifted from my legs. And I go, what is this? So they said, it's Reiki. So I went to the library at Lilydale, and I started looking it up because I was so intrigued. I go, I've got to learn how to do this. But I was a little bit skeptical because I thought, oh, I'm a nurse, and I just want to make sure it's legit. So I read that the nurses in Massachusetts were doing it in the hospital.
It would have to enhance your job. It would have to enhance it.
Exactly. Yeah,
because you would be able to tell things about people it's not going to show, possibly in blood work or on an MRI or something like that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I went on that journey. I found out from the Ohio Board of Nursing that they approved it, and I would get continuing education credits for it. So I went through all the levels and became a Reiki master, but that wasn't enough. I felt like more of a draw to do it.
Yeah.
So I continued on. I went out to Sedona several times and to the International Reiki Center in Michigan. After my first, what's called an attunement, which is really channeling the energy from the master teacher to the student. Shortly after that is when I started seeing colors. When I would close my eyes, in the sunlight, I started seeing like this dark orange. The whole field was orange, and then these green stars and a pink heart would emerge. And that kept repeating itself. And I said, oh my gosh, this is like such a gift from the universe.
Just so our listeners know, I started working with you over a couple of years ago, and at first we were just doing massages.
Right.
And I was in all of this neck pain, shoulder pain, and back pain that I mean, really had as far back as I can remember. Even as a teenager, I remember my back hurting. And you were doing the massages, and they're kind of like they were like a band-aid for me.
Right.
Temporary relief, but no permanent relief. And then you just mentioned one day, you might want to think about myofascial release. And I was like, well, what's that? And then we started doing those treatments, and pain is gone.
It's excellent.
I mean, like, seriously.
Yeah.
And I mean, physically, it's like it's a game changer.
Yes, it's transforming.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And so So you taught me all about that, and I would like to, I want our listeners to hear you explain what that is exactly. But I also want to tie in the differences between the Reiki healing from the Marconics healing.
Okay.
Because I'm assuming that all three somehow must be interconnected, or am I off base?
No, not really.
Okay.
Not really off base.
Because I had never heard of Marconics
Yeah.
until you just casually told me, a few weeks ago, well, I'm an advanced Marconics practitioner. And I was like, whoa, wait, what? And then I Googled it, and I'm like, this is over my head.
Right.
And I know it's got to be over most people's heads,
right.
too.
Yeah.
So with all that said, maybe we just do like a broad jump into what those three things are exactly.
Yeah, let's start with myofascial release.
Okay.
The body has a web of connective tissue. It's like a three-dimensional web. And you're right, Paula, it's more than just doing the myofascia, holding the tissue for 5 minutes, waiting for a release for that third layer of connective tissue, and releasing trauma.
Mm-hmm.
It is on the scale of vibrational frequency, it's higher than massage. The actual connective tissue, they call it the web of light, so it holds consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
So it has all this energy flowing, as I said earlier, with the aura.
Mm-hmm.
So it is all connected with the meridians, the acupressure points, and all those energetic pathways are stimulated with myofascial release. So,
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So moving from there, the difference, I'll start with Reiki since that was my beginning.
Mm-hmm.
They're both healing modalities.
Mm-hmm.
They're both transferred to a student through attunement or channeling the energy. With Reiki, the practitioner is working with the Japanese form of what's called ki. So the practitioner is working on the auras to correct any distortions by bringing down, channeling that Reiki energy to the client on the table, either through light touch or a few inches above the body. Reiki is third dimensional energy. So we're talking about dimensions on, this is 3D Earth, so trying to keep it simple.
Mm-hmm.
But it's third dimensional energy. Moving on to Marconics, so the reason I'm explaining the dimensions is that in 2012, the Earth started moving into a different place in the galaxy. So the frequency on this planet has been moving upward into a 5-dimensional energy. So what I noticed several years ago, that when I was working on people and I could even feel the difference without even knowing this, I didn't know this at the time, but oh gosh, it just it seems to take longer for the energy to work to see the results by doing the Reiki. So then I went on doing more Reiki. I did Karuna, another form of master, and holy fire. So trying to power it up in a system that it doesn't match. So the Reiki energy is very powerful. However, it is third dimensional, and a practitioner who chooses to use that energy, it's kind of like at a train station. It's no judgment. It's like, hey, I'm going to stay over here and I'm going to do this there, and I'm moving on, moving down the line, and I want to do something different. I didn't look for Marconics. It came to me through another spiritual teacher, and I had a phone conversation with her, and I was telling her about some of the struggles with Reiki at the time, and she said, well, it's interesting because I just got this email about Marconics classes, and I said, oh, I've not heard of that, but I'm interested. And she said that, they're doing the classes in New England. Well, I started to pursue that, and I thought it matched up for me. So I went on that spiritual journey. And so the difference, like with Marconics, is that it is an ascension energy. it helps the client drop density out of their energy field. So what's happening right now is that our fields are electromagnetic, and whatever goes on in this planet, we're affected by. Imagine, so if our frequency is lower, but we're living in a field of higher energy, it creates a sense of distortion. It can cause illness. People get depressed or anxious or have chronic pain, fibromyalgia, or autoimmune diseases. So the Marconics is a no-touch energy that works above the body on the axiatonal lines, which are meridians of light. By working on those lines and helping to bring up the vibrational frequency of the person on the table, they're able to shed density and spontaneous healings occur with regular treatments. Now, the cool part of this is that geography does not matter. So this energy, these sessions can be done at a distance. And I know it works because I worked on a client out of Canada from Kentucky here when I lived here. She wanted me to do sessions, so we were doing weekly sessions, and she was having some profound changes going on in her life through the Marconics.
Was she sick?
She had a lot of, she wasn't physically sick, but she had a lot of the emotional issues.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of stress in her life. And so that it's very relaxing. It's transformative. So it comes in on a different frequency line. So it's like being plugged into a higher voltage, so to speak. And like I said, they're both healing modalities, but they do separate things. And one is no touch versus, and Reiki can be no touch, but usually a practitioner will put their hands-on healing. So, yeah, so those are the three.
That was great. I mean, it would take me a while to get my head wrapped around all of it, but I understand it right now, I think probably better than I ever have.
Oh, good.
So Marconics, it sounds to me like probably goes deeper than Reiki.
Deeper in that it's multidimensional. So it's full spectrum, multidimensional energy, which a lot of people, I think, are unfamiliar with that.
I certainly was until I started my work at the Chopra Center.
Yes.
And I was looking at something earlier. There are 3 primary divisions: physical body, subtle body, and causal body. And at the Chopra Center, we also referred to those layers as, body, mind, and soul. Auras were part of the subtle body, okay?
Yes.
I mean, that's what we learned. And so if I'm getting this right, based on what you just said about multidimensional, Marconics, does it hit the conscious, the subconscious, and the unconscious mind?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm getting it.
Yes.
Okay. And so that sounds fascinating, because so much in our conscious that we're not aware of, unless we do shadow work or Marconics or something like that, interferes with everything.
That's very true.
It really does.
It's all connected.
It is all connected.
Yes.
So someone, let's just say, you see someone, or they come to you and they're like, okay, I don't know what I need. I don't know if I need Marconics. I don't know if I need Reiki. I don't know if I need myofascial. Is there like a diagnostic tool that you use? And I mean, can you see their aura and be like, maybe they need X, Y, and Z?
No, I can't see their aura just initially. The examples I gave, and there's more of just seeing the auric field or parts of it, parts of the colors on people. I cannot see outwardly with my eyes open those auric fields right now. I think because my mind is so busy, my body's busy, and you have to really quiet yourself down to be able to just relax soften the gaze and look.
Mm-hmm.
I believe a lot of my work is the visual part is a tool. And when you were describing earlier that your sense of feeling or knowing, those are also psychic gifts. They're different aspects of our psychic abilities.
Mm-hmm.
So, not to discredit one or the other, some people have stronger points in certain areas than others. But I would say, moving into where I'm at right now, I have a stronger intuitive sense of knowing, like the claircognizance of what a person needs.
Okay.
So I do an interview and talk with them and just ask a few questions. Or, when they walk into the room, usually the body will show me. Now, I do see areas that light up, that look like a sunburn on the skin.
Yeah, you always say that to me because I always light up here.
Yes, you do. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the area that I go to, that I've been trained to go first. That's the body's way of saying, I need work here first. And then another area, it's almost like lighting up like a Christmas tree, and then another area will light up or not, or I go on my intuition. I'll look at a body part on, like a knee or foot, and I go, I need to go there next.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a clear-cut formula. It would be nice if I had that readout of colors like when a person walks into the room.
Mm-hmm.
But I can tell you this, that I do see with my eyes closed when I'm working, no matter what I'm doing on the table with a client, I can see their energy field with my eyes closed. And I think I had mentioned to you one day, I go, oh my gosh, I'm seeing all this purple.
You did.
In your field.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can see colors with my eyes closed even now, even when I'm not working on someone. So that's that aspect of seeing some type of auric field is still there.
And the purple, I think that means intuition or creativity or something.
The violet is reflective in the at the top of the head,
Mm-hmm.
and that means a person's highly spiritual.
Okay.
They have a soul mission of some sort,
Mm-hmm.
but very intuitive, very spiritual,
Mm-hmm.
psychic. Yes.
Yeah, that is absolutely fascinating to me. Is there a way that someone can see their own aura?
Yes. The way that I do it, that I think works. I know I've learned that there's more than one way. But what I like to do is stand in front of the mirror. And I have a neutral background behind me.
Mm-hmm.
That's important because it's easier to see the colors that emerge.
Okay.
In the mirror. First, it's like just not trying, but just sort of relaxing and, just a soft gazing and looking above the head. And the first, like I said earlier, that you'll see is that bluish, grayish, it's real bright, is that light that's very close to the body. And then it takes practice, but then you'll see there's another color or two that may emerge. Now, everybody has two predominant colors.
Mm-hmm.
However, there's other colors that come in that are reflective of the chakras and what's going on with the person in their life that's projected outward.
Well, that's one of the things that I wanted to ask you about. So, do the two dominant colors, do they ever change?
Not usually. They're pretty much set.
Mm-hmm.
However, they can change in hue. So red isn't just red. So take, for instance, a maroon color or dark red.
Mm-hmm.
That could indicate a person has a bad temper, depending on the color of red. Or a scarlet color can be like somebody's into their ego, like super ego. Or a very light red can mean like some type of nervousness or anxiety. So there's shading. So it's not just clear cut. This gets complex because then there's overlays that have to do with trauma that can cover up the energy field with colors.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, talking about trauma or illness, there can be actually a brown, muddy color in the auric field as a result of illness.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Another example of seeing a color would be, and one wouldn't think because it's black,
Mm-hmm.
but black shows some kind of spiritual oppression. I did see black. Actually, one of my teachers and from one of my spiritual classes, actually, he had a lot going on, and I was several feet away from him. But what I noted was his right eye had one big ball of black covering the right eye. It looked like just a ball of just darkness. So I asked a friend of mine, I go, what's going on with him? He goes, oh, he's had all this stuff going, legal issues going on. Later on, while I was there, I did do some craniosacral work on him. And this is an interesting piece. I mean, I just thought he had such a bad headache. And so I thought maybe I'll do some cranial work on him. So I was working on him. He was in the recliner chair in the classroom, and some of the students were standing probably about 6 feet away, and they said they could actually feel energy flying off, some type of energy that was hitting them. They were standing there, and I didn't feel it from where I was. I felt, the pain in his head, but I didn't know that was happening.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what he needed. So when I see colors in the auric field, it's an opportunity, if the person wants it, for me to help. And, to be the messenger.
Right.
To offer my services depending on what they want or what they need. Mm-hmm. Not everybody wants to heal. So going back to your question with myofascial release, I've worked with people who get to the edge. I call it like, the edge of the cliff. And they're like, no, I'll see you back when I retire. I don't have time for this. Or I'll catch you later, or they disappear or no show. And it's just where people are. There's no judgment.
Hanging on to things sometimes is a security blanket for people.
Exactly.
It's almost like it's more comforting to stay in the fear, not let go of it, keep that death grip, stay in pain, physical and emotional, than confronting it and changing. And I think I told you when we first started, I want to let this shit go.
I still remember.
Yeah, I mean, no shame in my game. I want to let it go. I mean, whatever I need to do, I want to let it go. I don't want to hang on to anything. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just had to
you're fine.
Say that because I know people like that.
Well, and it does get back to, I don't know if you remember that when I said to you at the beginning of myofascial release, I give this little instructional piece at the beginning that in order to heal, one needs to go into the right side of the brain where the healing occurs. That's our spiritual side, the ability to heal, to let go. The left side is the ego, and the ego is very tenacious, wants to grab hold, like you were saying, like the death grip, not let go and hang on. And it's like, gladly return your misery if you want it. That's fine. It's like accepting people where they are. And that's why I said so getting back when you asked me, well, how do I know? And through this interviewing or actually doing a couple of sessions on people. And some aren't even like wanting to embark on anything like spiritual. That's kind of sounds a little out there.
Yeah.
So that's the barrier that I felt I guess not felt, but encountered initially when I was doing the Reiki work. I had my own business, and it was just difficult to get people interested in wanting to try it. And it's like, well, I know what massage is like, so I'll do that. But it's from that base that once I establish rapport with people, then I can move on to something else, if they want it. Now, the other thing I wanted to tell you is that I was told when I received this Marconics energy that clients would note the difference from my hands. So the hands have the center of the palms, or palm chakras, they're called. And so there's...
I've never heard of this.
Yes.
And I'm familiar with our spiritual anatomy and the chakras, but I've never heard of palm chakras.
Yeah, so there's palm chakras, and that's where the energy comes out of, in the center of the palms. As a matter of fact, there's a Russian researcher who developed Kirlian photography.
Mm-hmm.
He was able to take pictures. This is back in the 40s. He was able to take pictures and actually have the auras show up. So the Reiki master that I trained under in Detroit, Michigan,
Mm-hmm.
shared a picture in one of his manuals of what it looked like when he had Kirlian photography taken of one of his palms. So this is the cool part. There's a beam of light coming out of the center of that palm as a healer. So it was just a big stream of light, and around each finger was like a circle of light. So there's no little thing here. I mean, it's huge.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all energy.
Right.
So it just depends, but I bring my gifts to the table. It just depends on who wants to take them or not.
Yeah.
It's choice.
I have found that a lot of people, fear, it all boils down to fear.
Yes.
And a lot of people are very fearful of even considering this type of healing. This is my opinion. And it's just based on a lot of experiences that I've had. I don't think that some people want to find out these types of things about themselves. And I think that some people don't want to admit that they have trauma, emotional trauma.
Right.
And it's easier to continue on business as usual versus, I don't think I need to let Vickie do this. Who knows what she might see or what she might find. And it's just easier to just turn a blind eye and a deaf ear to it. But it all boils down to fear.
Yes, you're right. Absolutely.
Yeah. But I'm living proof of someone that had zero knowledge of this. I wasn't raised to believe in any of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I was raised to think that this was the devil's work.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, you know what? Whatever it is, it has changed my life.
Yay.
1,000%.
That's awesome.
Learning about these things, adopting a spiritual lifestyle, believing in my spiritual anatomy, and just not looking at everything as my physical body, victim of chance, that I have no control over my health, that disease just happens.
Right.
And I know that is not true.
No, you're correct.
And since I have lived this lifestyle for so long and studied and researched and got certifications and talked to people and coached people, when somebody is sick all the time or somebody tells me that they have a disease, my mind goes to a totally different place than most people. And I know that your mind probably goes here too. I think, what's going on emotionally?
Exactly.
Because why is it that, and this is somebody that I'm using as an example that I know personally, he is probably in his 80s, and he smokes, I think, 4 packs of cigarettes a day. Now, cigarettes I'm not encouraging anybody to smoke here.
Right.
But there's really not anything wrong with him, except he's old. Right. And he's smoking constantly.
Oh, wow.
But then you've got this person over here who's in their 30s, and they've got, 2 or 3 different diseases going on. No real bad habits. There's more to it.
There's a lot to it, yeah.
It's just not, you're just walking along just fine, and bam, you get hit with a fatal disease. I don't believe that. I just don't.
Yeah.
And becoming awakened and educated in that way. I mean, I'm 47 years old. I'm in menopause, but I am in the best shape and the best health of my life, and it's not because of medicine. I believe in westernized medicine. There's a place for it.
Right.
Love my doctors. Always going to go to the doctor. But to me, all of this is where it's at, because it's preventative.
Yes, yes.
Because the minute that you said that you could sense sickness through the colors of the aura, I mean, my wheels started turning.
Yes.
Because of the way that I view health and disease and how we become sick and all of that stuff. And then looking back years past, I was a person that stayed sick all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Why would a teenager have the neck and the shoulder and the back pain that I had?
Yeah.
I wasn't an athlete.
Right.
It was because of emotional trauma, and I didn't realize that I had it, because nobody ever told me about it.
Exactly.
And so that's why I like to have people like you on this show to provide a broader perspective and, let people see that it's not black and white. And maybe you need to dig a little bit deeper if you're always getting head colds, or if you're always getting urinary tract infections, and and it's like I was diagnosed with interstitial cystitis, commonly referred to as IC, and I think it was 2016, and I had struggled with urinary issues since I was like 18 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And my urologist back in 2016 said, well, this is something you have to live with. There's no cure, but, here's what we can do with some lifestyle changes. And so I made the lifestyle changes. It didn't go away. I took the medicine. It didn't go away. But what I wasn't doing back then that I'm doing now is practicing primordial sound meditation, which is a very sophisticated Ayurvedic practice that I learned from Deepak Chopra, and I'm certified to teach.
Mm-hmm.
I've reduced so much inflammation in my body through that meditation.
It's powerful.
I'm asymptomatic from IC.
That's amazing.
And it's
wonderful.
Also called painful bladder syndrome, PBS, and those are my initials. So I thought that was super cute.
Oh, wow. It's like, do we want that association?
Right. Oh, my God. But I'm just telling this story because so many women, just staying with the IC example, they're debilitated by it. They're debilitated by it. They're going to the ER. They're screaming in pain. They're taking all these medicines that health insurance doesn't pay for, by the way, because the health insurance companies don't believe that IC is a real medical condition.
Oh, wow.
Right. And so it's very misunderstood. But I was never debilitated by it. I struggled with my own set of issues, but never debilitated. And now I'm asymptomatic. And it improved when I started the myofascial release treatments. It started getting better. Yeah. But then the meditation just kind of kicked it into
the combination.
Of everything that I do, know. So, this is something that people really, really need to hear. And it's fascinating. I want to go back to a little note. So you had mentioned that plants also had auras.
Yes.
Okay, I did not know that.
Oh, yeah.
And so I found this in my Chopra literature. There is a plant. Have you ever heard of the Tulsi plant? Tulsi? See, I haven't.
Yeah, there's tea. There's Tulsi tea.
Really?
Yes.
Well, I've got to get it.
Yes, you do. It's a wonderful tea.
Okay.
It's very soothing.
Okay. Well, I will certainly try that. And in my literature, it says this is also known as holy basil.
Yes.
And it has medicinal and spiritual significance in Ayurveda. And so a living Tulsi plant is kept in many Indian homes. And it's endowed with a sacred aura that's believed to provide divine protection for the household. And it's used to treat colds and flu because its purifying actions cleanse the respiratory tract of toxins. It's backed by science. Scientific reports confirm the healing properties of holy basil in diabetes and cancer. Isn't that something?
It's powerful. I didn't know that about the actual plant itself. It would be cool to have one.
Well, we've got to get one.
Yes, we do.
I'll be out.
Practice aura reading on there.
Because I'm always coming to Will with something new that I'm wanting to try. I mean, it's like something every week. So now I'm going to be running around looking for a Tulsi plant. So I had told you about a situation I was in year before last, and I had stayed at Shaker Village.
Oh, yes.
And I couldn't sleep in that place.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that I've ever really had a feeling that profound. But the minute that I walked in that room, I wanted to run out of there. I felt like something was seriously behind me. I couldn't shake it. And it was like that. Well, I was stayed out there, I think, maybe 3 years in a row, 3 summers. Same feeling, slept with the lights on, what little I did sleep. And if I was standing at the bathroom mirror, I swear to God, I could just keep turning around. And I don't act like that. I don't typically feel that way. And I was telling you about that bad vibe that I got in that place, and you said that dark spirits are drawn to people like me because my light is bright. And so would you elaborate on that a little bit?
I'd be happy to.
I'd love, if you've got an example.
First of all, I have been to Shaker Village.
Oh.
I didn't like it there. It seems so dark.
Something's up.
Something in the dining room area.
Oh.
Just the whole place itself.
Now, the minute I pull on the property, I feel it.
Yes. Well, let me just say that there's places that attract entities. And these historic buildings are one place. Believe it or not, hospitals, churches.
Oh, I believe that 100%.
Yeah, they're drawn. So there's these, and there's different types of, some people call them ghosts, entities. Discarnate spirits, I don't know if you've ever heard of that. It's like people who have died that haven't quite completely passed through the astral plane.
Right.
They're just kind of trying to find their way around. In the meantime, a dark entity can take on the body of this person, the shell that they've left behind, like energy vampires would be a vampire. The psychic, energetic vampire energy. So one of my spiritual teachers said, the closer we get to nirvana, the more the demon rears its ugly head. So we're beacons of light. We think that we're like in our homes, at work or whatever, but we have an energy signature that we're visible to the good as well as the bad. So there's both. And I think it's beneficial for people to know that these energies exist. It's not to focus on it, but just to have the awareness, like knowledge is power. And it's like it's self-mastery, standing in your power, calling in your sovereignty, and commanding your space. And when you mentioned fear earlier, fear will draw these energies, I'll call them energies, in. So they're drawn to fear. And there's, the adrenal glands above the kidneys are secreting hormones, the adrenaline release. Body doesn't know if you're being chased by a wild animal or if you're frightened with, the thought of a spirit being in the room.
Right.
But so the physiology is there, but the bottom line is that these entities can read your energy, your aura around your body. And when I said at the beginning, your emotions are seen in those, they're projected outward, depending on what's going on. But in answer to your question, have I had some experiences, and I don't know if, yes, and I don't know if, I think I told you about Boone Tavern, because we talked about it. You said you were out in Berea.
You did, yeah, that place is haunted as hell.
Yes. I didn't know that when I went out there. I wanted to go out for my birthday and go to some of the art studios out there. And so I went to Boone Tavern with a friend. We were having dinner, actually having some, cocktails before dinner. And I had these earrings on and the reason I'm describing this, because it has to do with ghost activity, but they were rectangular in shape and a long silver post. So they weren't earrings that could fall out of the ear easily. They were secure in my ears. So I'm talking, and all of a sudden one of my earrings, the right, falls onto the floor. And I went to put it back, and I go, I must not have had that secure enough or something. But in my head, I go, no, that doesn't make sense. But I continue to converse. The earring falls again, goes flying in the center of the table. And so my friend goes, what do you make of that? And I go, I think there's a ghost here.
Mm-hmm.
So the server came over and I go, I have a question. And so I told her what happened. I think that earring actually fell one more time on the table. And I said, is there ghost activity here? And she goes, oh, yeah. At night, the pans are banging in the kitchen. And it's all kinds of stuff going on. The staff has reported it. And she said, as a matter of fact, there's a mom with her little child that go around tickling the guest's feet at night. So that kind of freaked me out. And I go, I forgot to look to see that this place is haunted. So when I checked out, I said, I just wanted to double check about, is this listed? And they go, oh, yeah, we've had the Ghostbusters come out here with their equipment. And this place is like Grand Central Station. But I can feel, like you were saying I can feel the energies when they're off. I can feel when something's around. I feel like I can feel when I'm being watched. There was another, hotels, I didn't mention them. Hotels are portals for these energies to come through.
That makes total sense. There's so many
people that come in. People don't know that they're carrying, that they have attachments. They don't know. I was staying at a hotel in Avon Lake, Ohio, and went up for graduation. And usually I check out the room and go, where's the mirror? What does it feel like? Does it feel creepy? Where's the placement of everything? Does it feel like bright light?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, a lot of times I get the room changed because I didn't like the way it felt. One night, the second night that I was there, I didn't like the room, but I wasn't there that much. I was at the party, and so I go, I'll forget it. I'll just keep it. But the hotel itself, like when you were describing Shaker Village, this hotel had like a darkness to it. The lobby was dark, the furnishings were heavy, dark woods, the room, it just didn't feel right.
Mm-hmm.
So that night, I went into like a light meditation, and there was an entity that came out of the corner, this dark, I could feel this energy approaching me in the bed. I was lying down. And I called, as I said to you, about sovereignty. I fought off whatever this was and took out like what I visualized were two lighted swords, one in each hand, and I said, I command through the power of God that you leave now. And it left, and I woke up. I told my teacher in Canada, he goes, congratulations, you just warded off a possession. I said, what?
Oh my God. So that's what someone should do if they feel something like that?
You have to command your space. It's your right to command
cold
that
chills.
space.
I get cold chills a lot when I'm talking to people on this podcast.
I know. And I've been doing the work that I do, especially the Marconics, has set me up for psychic attacks. So I've had more than one incident where an entity's been trying to steal my energy. And I'm very firm in staying out of fear and commanding my space. And so, yeah, when I was when we were talking about when I was talking about attachments, these actually showed up in pictures when I worked on the psychiatric unit over in Indiana. I was on the crisis unit. We would take pictures of the new admissions, and back then it was using a Polaroid camera. So we'd have an instant picture and put it in the chart. Twice, you could actually see the attachment to the crown of the person on the top of their head. One was like a demonic-looking clown figure. We were like, oh my gosh, all the nurses. And the other one was like an old man attached to the top of the head. That's why I'm saying that people have hitchhiker spirits and they don't even know it. But if you're tuned in enough, like they say the eyes are the window of the soul, I can kind of tell when someone, especially people who are floridly psychotic, their eyes go black.
Yeah, they do.
And they open up. They're portals for demonic energies to go in. And I've encountered that working. I worked on a crisis team up in Cleveland. And they get pretty scary looking. It's something like out of a horror movie.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're pretty scary and dangerous.
I have no doubt.
And dangerous.
Oh, yeah.
I was going to mention, Paula, before we end, Edgar Cayce.
Yes.
And an incident that he described in his little booklet, which I got years ago because I belonged to the Edgar Cayce Association. And so this book on auras fascinated me, even before I became an energy worker. He talks about this incident. This book, the first publishing was in the 1940s, and the second one was updated 1973. But anyway, way back when, before the automatic elevators, they had an elevator operator and gates that secured the elevator, and the operator would get people on the elevator and take it to different floors. So one day, Edgar was standing there, and it must have been like around the holiday time. He said he describes people standing there with red sweaters on, which drew, it's like right away that bright red color. But he stepped back and he said something like we're describing that darkness. Well, that elevator was dark. And he said, just the background, he goes, something's very unusual. There's no light above these people in their auric field. So he said, go ahead and go. He just said, no, I'm not getting on. Well, these people plunged to their death. That elevator cables were snapped and all those people died, and he picked up on it. So when a person's going to die, the soul withdraws, and so does the aura.
That is absolutely incredible. That is incredible.
I know.
So, again, I could talk to you about this till 2 o'clock in the morning. How can people find you? We'll conclude with that. And I'm going to put your information along with this podcast episode.
Yeah.
But the best way to reach you is...
It's actually probably through my Gmail, but also I'll give you my business phone number.
Okay.
I like to talk with people, not just communicate, especially with these types of appointments via email. I like to feel the energy of the person over the phone and screen them first. So my Gmail is mfrtherapy111@gmail.com.
Okay. And can you do, I know with Marconics you can do that at a distance.
Yes.
But can you do anything virtually? Do you ever do virtual visits? Just so people know? Okay.
No.
Okay. Well, this has been one of the best conversations that I have ever had about all of this stuff. And you're absolutely brilliant. But, I mean, I knew that. That's why I asked you to be on the show.
I'm a messenger.
I mean, you know your stuff. And I'm so glad. So I was sitting at my desk in my office, and I told you this, and this has been a few months ago, and I always get all these questions about energy.
Yeah.
People are very uninformed but very curious.
Right.
And I'm like, where am I going to find an energy specialist? And I'm looking around, local people, I'm looking on social media, and I said, wait a second here. Vickie. Vickie's the one. And so I'm so glad that I went with my nudge on that and asked you to be on the show.
My pleasure.
This has been fabulous.
Thank you so much.
We may have to do a part 2 at some point because I'm going to start saying, I want you to do Marconics.
I know we have a hard time shutting down.
Oh, I know. All right. Well, this is it. Thank you again, Vickie.
You're welcome.
I appreciate
Thank you
so much.
Thought Snob Podcast with Paula Swope has been brought to you by Thought Snob Media in association with Special Purpose Studios. All production, mixing, and sound engineering by me, Will Swope. We hope you've enjoyed this podcast. Please take a few seconds to give us 5 stars and leave a review. See you on the next Thought Snob Podcast with Paula Swope.